Robber is too much, took 14 children hostage, live on air, and shouted for a meeting with the Prime Minister. Things were getting out of hand. The Prime Minister arrives on the scene. Nina took out her phone and a spotlight and set it on the table. The negotiations with the Prime Minister will be published in full. The Prime Minister could not risk her life. She took out her phone and spoke to Nina on video. After all, she is a murderer with a life in her hands. Hearing this, Nina hangs up the phone. She opened the door and let the cleaner and a boy go. It turns out Nina didn't shoot him. The crowd was in an uproar. Nina told the Prime Minister she wasn't a murderer. The only reason for making a scene was to talk to her face to face. Hearing this, the Prime Minister decided to go inside, but Nina had to let all the hostages go. She readily agreed. Then she called Jason and asked him to find 2 men for her. Jason was confused. It was only when he saw Nina's mother that he realized the truth. One day, 10 years ago, Nina, who had just turned 16, was on the school bus home. The driver saw her alone and became violent. Nina was unable to resist and was humiliated. Her mother went to the police. It was Jason who was in charge of the case. Jason was looking for a promotion and a pay rise. He was only interested in solving other major cases. He didn't give a damn about Nina. 2 years on and still no arrests. Jason was ashamed. The man Nina asked him to find must be the man who hurt her. He sent the police to look for them, but one of them seemed to have disappeared. No useful information could be found. At that moment, the Prime Minister walked into the nursery. Nina sat across from her, opens her notebook, asking the Prime Minister to press the OK button herself to donate the $50 million extorted to a victimized women's organization. She wanted to use this kidnapping. She wants to bring national attention to women who have been victimized and to push for legal protection, include the death penalty for rape, but legislation cannot be easily changed. The Prime Minister promised to find the perpetrators, make her victim pay, but Nina said there was no need because the culprit was sitting behind her. The Prime Minister turned back to the driver. The driver had successfully applied for a job as a school bus driver 3 weeks ago. Nina recognized him immediately, fearing that he was going to get his hands on her students, so she planned the kidnapping to make sure the villain was punished, and in doing so, she pushed for greater protection for women under the law. The driver tried to defend himself. This was too much for Nina. Took a pistol and pointed it at him to make him confess to his crime. The driver grabbed the police officer's pistol, pulling the trigger only to find there were no bullets. This time Nina didn't hesitate. She fired several shots to end the driver's life, and she will be punished by the law. The world is full of people who pretend to be deaf and dumb. Even when they are screaming into their ears, they still choose to ignore it. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. Nina orchestrated the kidnapping and threatened the president to get national attention by doing so, to wake up the crowd.